welcome back to another stream. You might have seen that we streamed about 10 minutes ago, and sadly, I got a phone call, so it interrupted the stream. So I just decided that I would just scrap that first stream and we will just jump on with this stream. If you didn't see that one, you didn't miss much. We was going to talk about a topic, and I was trying to talk about it, and we got a few comments and some people asked some questions, and we kind of dissected a little bit from what we was sort of aiming to really talk about. So we're gonna try and redo it now. First of all, if you are one of them types of people that watch these streams quite regular and you kind of know how we do things, you might notice that the background, like where I'm sat and what you can see behind me, you might notice it has somewhat changed, and that is because I've had a little move around in my front room. So yesterday I decided, while I had a day off from work, that I wasn't going to mess around, and I was just going to have a little bit of a tidy up and a clean up, and that ended up me changing the whole living room around, which is one of the reasons why I don't like cleaning up, because I start cleaning and then I start thinking of like how things can look different somewhere, or what if the decks are here, and what if the computer sits here, and you're changing things around. And I've got to say, I do like the way the room actually looks at the moment. I did like how it used to be as well. It wasn't like horrible. But I felt like as we kind of got rid of some of the vinyl records and we sold the turntables, it was just a little bit kind of like, do you know what? It was a little bit like, like I just had a lot of space and not really much, just a lot of empty space really, where I just thought, you know what, we don't really need all that like big areas. So I've tried to sort of somewhat make the living room a little bit smaller, but still somewhat quite, spacious size wise. So anyway, we've done a lot of streams lately, and we've talked about how we have had like a really busy year music wise, and I played some of the best sets and things. And of course, playing some of these best sets have been obviously playing music. So, what tracks have been doing it for me this year? So, normally around this time of the year, sometimes a bit later, maybe even sometimes a little earlier, we have a little bit of a discussion about what producers, what tracks are kind of doing it for me, as we kind of have gone through 2024. And obviously I'm into my bounce music a lot, so that's what we're going to kind of focus the stream on, because I'm going to be like completely honest, a lot of the music I buy is just like bounce music. I buy a lot of bounce and stuff like that. Normally, if I'm like getting any house music, I've normally found some like free download bootlegs and stuff like that. And in all honesty, I play a lot of Clubland sets as well, and a lot of that stuff is I find like remixes that are free downloadable, or stuff that I play isn't necessarily new stuff. So yeah. Um, Decks in the living room is the way forward. Somehow I'm lucky my missus lets me keep them in there. Do you know what? um, I call this space my living room. It's not really a living room, if I'm going to be completely honest. It's it's yeah, it's more. I ain't gonna call it a music studio as such, because, like, it kind of isn't. It kind of isn't. Like, it's not a fully like soundproofed studio room, but it is kind of, I suppose, like what I would call the studio room. So where I'm sat right now, I'm sat at my production PC, which it's just a Windows 10 PC that has production software on it, and I've got some little monitor speakers and a little mic sort of mixer interface, and I do all my track making. And then behind me, I've got the decks and stuff like that, which is where I do all the DJing, or if I've made a new track, I'll go over to the decks and test it out, or if I'm doing a live stream, I'll obviously, be over there spinning, and then I just have a little sofa and a TV. But as far as living rooms go, there's no coffee tables, there's no chest of drawers in here. There is one like little shelving unit, and it's got again mainly like music stuff on it. So there's like an audio interface on there. There's a microphone. There's some vinyl records in a bag. There's a ukulele and headphones and things, and mainly music things. There's a wallet full of CDs and stuff like that in there. So you can't really, mainly this room is just full of music stuff: CDs, vinyl records, music equipment, that kind of thing. So sounds like the perfect living room to me. It's nice. I call it a studio room, but I guess another word, it's my creative space. My main passion is music, so I'm not really a big person who like I do. In all honesty, I don't really watch telly. So there's a couple of I watch YouTube and things, and that is mainly I watch like videos about music production. I don't mind watching like documentaries and stuff like that. But basically, 9 times out of 10, I'm like searching for music or music production videos and stuff like that, or reviews on plugins. And so I'm just a music person. I don't really sit there like there's people who obviously like I don't even pay for things like Netflix or like Amazon Prime, because it's Prime Video, because it's just not like I'd buy it and then I'd just find myself like I don't want to watch it. I want to come on the computer and write a track instead. And that's kind of what my nights sort of insist of: having a mix, writing a track, working on a remix, doing something, coming live. So I do plenty of other things to keep me entertained without having to watch telly. There's only like odd things that I watch, or if I've had like a really busy day at work and I think like I probably shouldn't boot up the computer, then I'll get chilled out. Sometimes carry my TV into my bedroom because I don't have a telly in the bedroom, and just stick like YouTube on and just watch some like random things. But I don't watch like set TV channels with programs, and it's just not really my thing, in all honesty. So, tracks then this year. So last year we did a similar video, and there was the likes of the Bounce Assassins, there was Axel Gear, and they were kind of, I think for me, they were kind of up there with like my with what I was enjoying production wise that year, because Axel Gear kind of came into the bounce scene, and kind of he made a return to making some more bounce again, and he kind of brought this different vibe and this different sound, and it kind of for me it was like a no-brainer. It just sounded really good. It sounded fresh. It had a hint of happy hardcore in it, and it just kind of sounded different to the other tracks that were kind of coming out on like your typical Bounce Heaven and stuff. So it really, for me, it just sounded a little unique. The donk sounds, the bass sounds, they sounded a little bit different, a bit more punchier. They just hit a bit different, and the production was second to none. However, this year there has been some changes in the way of music production, and like there's some people that I have really been liking this year when it comes to music production, and there's been some people that have been really killing it for me, that have been doing really good. So we are going to touch up briefly upon the Bounce Assassins, because this year for me they haven't been doing it, unfortunately. And now I've got a lot of love for the Bounce Assassins. They're an absolutely solid bunch of people. I've had the pleasure to meet them, but I just feel this year they've had a lack in releases. They haven't really released as much, and some of the tracks that they've released, just for me, haven't been that good. Like last year, they did a remix of Master Blaster Everywhere, and then they did a remix of Ultra Beat I Want to Touch You, and then they did another remix of a track called Feel the Power, and they were absolutely belting. And they were really like honestly like really good. And they were just really taking on like tracks from like the likes of Ultra Beat and things and people that I used to listen to back in the day, and they were kind of doing like a really good take on them. And then it kind of felt like this year that there just wasn't as much as that, and then they just kind of like they did a remix of Because of You, which was obviously the classic Because of You. I think it Kelly Clarkson, I think, who did it originally, but they had it re-sung, and it just did, to me it just didn't sound as good personally when they had it re-sung. And I just wasn't as keen, and I think they did it with Mr. Bounce, and then they did a revamp of their remix of Velvet Fix Me, and I just didn't think it was as good as the one they'd done on their first take, and again they'd done it with Mr. Bounce, and I just don't feel like they've done as good personally, and that's nothing against them. It's just personally they haven't been bringing out tracks that I've kind of thought, you know what, like I really want this, unfortunately. So that was a little bit of a disappointing shame. Another duo that I want to briefly touch up on is basically um, Nixie and Devise. So they haven't really been releasing as much lately, and now it kind of feels like the stuff that they are releasing is stuff that they made ages ago, and they wasn't like originally going to release it. So the most recent one was Stand By Me. So they did a remix of Stand By Me. And that to me, like, it sounds good. I've not bought it yet, but like I've heard it before. Like they played it in a lot of mixes, so it didn't feel like a fresh track to me. What do you think of the Euphian and all the 24/7 hardcore label guys? So Euphian is actually Axel Gear who makes Bounce, and I rate Euphian and Axel Gear a lot because he makes like for Bounce he makes a unique sound. Euphian, so I actually know of him. So like I talk to him online from time to time. Like I know of the guy. And some of the other 24/7 people like Rob IYF, I've gigged with that guy on numerous occasions. I've been on lineups MCing where he's been DJing. I've actually been in a studio while he's been making a track. I know Al Storm, who kind of like is the head honcho, if you like, of 24/7 hardcore. As I say, it was actually at his house where the studio was, and we was meeting somebody else there, and a friend of mine was kind of helping him build some like shelving units for one of the studios, and I see Rob quite a lot at events, so I know them quite well, and I followed them for quite a lot of years. But I sort of took a little bit of a step back from the hardcore scene. So I used to play a lot of hardcore as a DJ, and when I first got back into DJing, like just at the beginning of the lockdown, I was right into my hardcore. So at that point, that was the tunes I wanted to download, the tunes I wanted to buy. That was the genre that I wanted to play. Um, and I did that for a while, and I just kind of felt like I don't know. I felt like it was very limited. So like within the bounce scene, there's all these like there's Excite Digitals and Bounce 7 Digital, and then you've got like your Acceleration, and then you've got like Ministry of Bounce and Bouncing. You've got all these like little labels, and they're not necessarily, a lot of them are just like releasing bootlegs and things like that. But I just felt like in hardcore there wasn't really this, if that makes sense. So You've got the 170 label, which is a cracking label. I absolutely love that label. They make some absolutely amazing stuff. And then you've got things like the 24/7 hardcore. And don't get me wrong, it's good, but it's got that for me, it's got that similar sound, and it's just got like all that you really ever see come out on that label really is just like a Rob IYF track, Rob IYF and Al Storm, and then you see the odd Euphian track, and then you see like Easy Vibe. Easy Vibe's another good producer, but I just kind of feel like for me it just it isn't really all there, and you don't really see it. Like I see Bounce Heaven all the time. I see Excite every week, new tracks coming out, and there's always, as much as I know, a lot of them are just bootlegs. There's always like things coming out, and there's always things happening. Whereas like with this, it's kind of like with the hardcore, it's like you see like the odd stuff, and then it's like go to Bandcamp, and I don't know. I just feel like the hardcore lacks a little bit for me. 170 does a smashing job. Don't get me wrong. 24/7 does good. Then you've got like your you know, and then you've got like Scarred Digital, but I just don't always rate some of the tracks on there. Like, don't get me wrong, I've got respect for people like Sethro and Brett Cooper, but sometimes I just don't feel. And don't get me wrong, I'm no person to talk. I'm not, gonna sit here like I produce absolute bangers, because I don't. I produce mediocre tracks really, but sometimes they make tunes, and I just don't think they're altogether that good. Like Brett Cooper. Some of his really older stuff, like he did a remix of System F Cry, and it was absolutely banging. Like I love it so much. And then he did a remix of Dougal and Gamma, Lose Me Forever, and stuff like that. And then some of his newer stuff, it just doesn't sound as punchy, doesn't sound as good. And you're right, the hardcore scene, it's not really what it used to be. I really rate the 170. I think that is an absolutely smashing label, and they're making some quality tracks, like really, really good tracks. They really are. They're making some absolute gold. However, for me, it doesn't. For me, some of the other labels just don't always do it, and it feels like the sound's really changed. Whereas, like, as much as we have all these donk tunes coming out, like it still feels donk, and it doesn't feel like there's been a change within the sound as such. Like there's some different sounds and some unique sounds, but that raw sort of like it is donk, it's still there. Whereas like a lot of the bass now has gone like very reverse bassy, and a lot of it just doesn't sound as punchy like the old Scouse Housey squaddy sort of kick sound, bass stab, if that makes sense. The um the saw bass essentially, is what it's called. So yeah, who we're running low on battery. Actually, we're actually on 3%. I should bear with me. Let me grab the charger. Got the charger, but I'm probably gonna have to take a little bit of a move in direction, just while I charge the phone. So let me put the charger in. I don't know how well this is gonna play, unfortunately. I think it might be a little bit tough. We have kind of somewhat got it to stay. Hopefully it stays, but I'll have to, let me grab my drink. I'll have to sit down here. So let's take it back to Bounce. Bounce has been like the big thing that I've really been like pushing, and the big thing that I've obviously been playing this year, as well as I have sort of the past couple of years. So as I was saying, the Bouncer sounds, they haven't really been doing it for me.
Nixie and Devise, they've kind of they've kind of slacked. I'm not gonna lie, and like I say, with them, I kind of feel like they haven't really done too much. And what they have kind of brought out has been some like older tracks that they weren't originally going to release. So producing wise, so people that have really stuck to me. So one guy I do want to mention is a good friend of mine. Goes by the name of Aiden Tyndall. His production and like it's become second to none. I don't know. It almost just feels like when like something is just for you, like you do something and you just fit straight in, and it really feels like Tyndall has just kind of like taken up production and it's just clicked, and he makes some absolutely corking tracks. Really, really strong tracks. He does some really, really good stuff. And he's come on leaps and bounds, and he makes some absolutely amazing tracks. And he's become a good friend of mine. I've known him for a good few years now, and he's really, really over the past couple of years, he's really improved. And this year, he's done some absolutely belting tracks, and I've got quite a lot of them now because like they've just been that good that like you've got to have them. And some of the ones to mention, he's done a remix of the I forget who did the track, but the track's called Houdini, and it was it was in the charts. I think it might still be in the well, when I say charts, I mean I think it still gets played on the radio, um, but I forget the name. Um, I can't remember who did it, but anyway, the point being, he did a remix of it. It was absolutely belting. And then he also did a remix of a classic track by Scott Brown, Rock You Softly. You might know it as a hardcore track. And he absolutely did an absolutely belting remix of that. One track he's done, he's not released it yet, is he's done a remix of the Not So Bad. So Not So Bad kind of blew up again when Dimitri Vegas did like I think they originally did like well, they did like a remix of it, and they did like kind of like a cool thing within their remix, and it kind of took off, and then loads of other people have gone on to do remixes, and it's become quite a big thing in the raves, and people singing, like my tea's gone cold, and even I play it in some of my sets now because it's belting. Well, Tyndall took to do a bootleg of it, and he's done a really, really good version of it, but it's not released yet. I think he is on about releasing it. Like I think his plan was always to release it, but I think he just wanted to hold on to it for a bit and kind of keep it exclusive and just play it in sets for a little while before he kind of thought, right, I'm going to take this track and I'm going to release it. But now I think he's at that point where he's going to take that track and release it. So Tyndall is absolutely smashing it for me, absolutely 100%, just really killing it for me. So another person to really mention this year is the man himself, Rick Shaw. Rick Shaw, for me, he's done some really strong remixes this year. He's done some remixes. Well, sort of over the past year, he's done some really, really good remixes that have been like right up my street. Like he's done some really, really good stuff over time. But this year, he's done some really good ones. He's done some stuff with Jules. He's done a remix of Corona, Try Me Out. He's done a remix of Days Like That. Sorry. He's done just recently done a remix of Todd Terry in something good, I think it's called, and it's that something feeling good in your soul. That is belting. He did a free download of the classic Atlantic Ocean Waterfall, absolutely belting tune, and he's just done some really, really good tracks, and the tracks he's done I don't know like how or what, like, because he doesn't show like when he's working on a track. He doesn't. There's no pictures of like I'm in the studio, or there's no like look at me, got this track in the works. So I don't know what like I don't know what software he's using. Maybe he keeps that a secret. I don't know particularly how he's making his tracks, but he gets just like, for me, he just gets a really, really crisp and clear sound, and like all the levels sound really good. Another good track that he did this year for me, he did a remix of Steve Mac, Loving You More, which was a house tune that I just never, like it's something I would have always liked to have done a remix of myself, but it's something that it hadn't been done that I was aware of, and it was just like for me it was just kind of like when he did it, it was like oh my god, like because I love the original so much, so like they're the type of tracks that I like to play because they're so good. Unfortunately, like that track is quite dated, and the track itself, like it was a really well big track, but you had to be really into that type of like house music to really know what that track was. So like although it did well, like if you were to play that and then Robin S Show Me Love, people would know the Robin S Show Me Love. So unfortunately, when it comes to some gigs, it doesn't make the set, unfortunately. And a lot of my the way I do sets nowadays, that there's a lot of like changing and thinking behind the set now, and just like the whole way that I DJ has like kind of changed over this year, because I've kind of come to realize that it's not unfortunately, it's a good thing and a bad thing, but it's not about what you want to do. And like at the end of the day, like you're doing a job, and you're playing to an audience, and you're playing to a crowd, and to some extent, like you've got to get that crowd dancing, you've got to get that crowd energetic, you've got to get that crowd sort of in the mood. So I could go out there and I could pick all my favorite bounce tunes, and I could play that Loving You More, and I could play this and play that. But unfortunately, not everybody in the crowd is going to know it, and not everybody's going to like it. And regardless of what you play, not everybody's going to like it. That's just kind of how it goes. But I've done a lot of sets this year where I've kind of, in a way, I've been forced to read the crowd. And at first, I was a little bit like, oh, I don't. Some of these tracks, I don't really want to play them. They're a bit, too cheesy. And then they've kind of grown on me because I've seen the crowd reactions of them, and especially when you kind of play into a crowd that isn't necessarily what you'd call donkheads, and people that have, like when I did the Bar Babylon the other weekend, I was playing bounce, but I had to really tread on eggshells with like what type of bounce tracks I was playing. Luckily for me, I was just, I guess I was just hitting the right remixes. So it kind of worked in my favour because I was hitting the right remixes, and because they recognised melodies and vocals, and because I'd pitched it down and slowed it down, it kind of worked. Um, so people were singing it, people loved it, and people found it a little bit energetic still at the same time. It was like hearing tracks that they know, but hearing them a little bit differently with just a little bit more faster energy to them. Even though I was playing them at like 145 instead of like 155, is what I would normally play a bounce at, but like I pitched it down, and I played some tracks that had some like scousey basses in them, and had some like different basses as opposed to just that donk 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 sound. And I was really really being, and I've had to do it a couple of times where I've had to think, right, what is this crowd gonna know? What are they gonna sing to? And unfortunately, as a DJ, that is kind of somewhat what you have to do. But I have actually found myself like loving it. Like I actually really love it, to the point now where I actually like I want to play sets like that, because you get a reaction, you know, you get a reaction off them. Like you could go on that mic, you know, to that type of crowd and get them to say Oggy, you know, to Oggy, 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 and they would respond to it because they're having a good time and they're dancing. Whereas, you know, you go to some raves and then you kind of you say it and then they don't, and then you're like, oh, you're gonna have to do better than that, and you know, and it's just nice. It's nice, like when you play somewhere and you get that crowd and they're singing every word of the track. And now I've realised that it's not just being behind the decks and playing music that I love. It's the reactions from the crowd. It's knowing that I'm making people happy. It's knowing that I'm giving people a good time, and it's just all of that, you know. And that's why a lot of my sets have changed. A lot of people will be like, I ain't gonna go, I ain't playing a remix of Living on a Prayer. And that's exactly how I used to think. I used to think like that is too cheesy for me. But then you put it on and you've got a full club singing it because they know it. You know, you dip the volume down and you hear every raver or every person on a night out in there singing it word for word because they love it. And that feeling, knowing that you've got that crowd in the palm of your hands and you've got them right where you want them and you've got them singing, that is for me where it's at personally, as opposed to, you know, I could jump on a set and like I say, I could play all the tunes I love, but then when it comes to, you know, like the crowd, like, you know, I'd maybe have a good set and people would say it was banging, but you just won't get that same reaction. So that's why it's changed. But no, going back onto Rick, he's done some belting tracks this year, and some really good ones, some really strong ones. Of course, he's done some tracks, and in all honesty, like all tracks that Rick makes, like they're good tracks. The only thing for me is, you know, and that's just down to my personal preference. Just like sometimes he does a remix of a track, and it's like just the like not his production, but just the type of track is remixed in itself is just not really sometimes my cup of tea. It's just not something that I could see myself playing. And sometimes I just think it's not really, you know, really that good for me. And you know, sometimes I just don't feel like it's something that I feel would go down well, so I don't buy it. It's not that he's done anything bad on the production. It's just sometimes the type of track is remixed is just not always something I feel would go down well, or something I'd really see myself wanting to really play in a set. But you know, apart from that, like he absolutely kills it. So that is another person to mention. Another person I've got to mention for production this year is a friend of mine by the name of Joe Dunn. We did a track together that came out at the beginning of this year, and we've been saying that we're going to do another one together, and we've just never got round to it. But we often, if we're working on some bounce tunes, we often send each other like, "Oh, I've been working on this. What do you think?" And he kind of sends me stuff he's been working on, and I'm like, "Do you know what? Like that's banging." You know, or if there's something where I think actually that doesn't sound right, like we tell each other, you know, and then we go and fix whatever, you know, was wrong with the track or whatever, you know, or trying something different. But he's really made some good tracks this year. One of my favourites is he's done a remix of California, and it's an absolute belter. So he's done like this bounce track, and it's a remix of the classic, you know, California Love. And when it goes into the breakdown, he slowed the breakdown down, and so it goes like to the original California BPM, like hip hop speed, and it just really gives a whole different aspect, and it gets people just briefly like jam into this hip hop groove, and then it like speeds back up and goes into this like really sick drop, and then the guy starts rapping, you know, obviously on the California track, but it goes up to like the 150 BPM, and it's sick. It's really good, and it's one of them tracks that really does well on the dance floor because it goes into that breakdown, and then the breakdown is just so well known, and then people start jamming because you'll find that there's a lot of ravers out there, and that they're actually into hip hop as well, and they like their old Snoop Dogs and their Eminems and stuff. So, when you go into like those classic like hip hop breaks and stuff, like they tend to know it and they tend to like it. And they're like, whoa, and then it goes back into that like sick rave drop, and he's done really good with that. So Joe Dunn is definitely another one for me. Of course, the man himself, Axel Gear, has been making some fire tracks this year as well. I think for me, he's definitely still up there for me. He's done some tracks this year that I've not, and again, it's not his production. It's more just I haven't liked the style of remix he's gone for. But he's done some belting stuff. One of my favourite ones he's done this year is a remix of Fat Bass, and it goes into like a little sick reverse bass drop, and it just sounds really really good. But he's done some really good tracks this year, absolutely belting, absolutely love it, and I just think what, this is absolutely sick. Now another DJ or duo. I don't know too much the person behind this 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 alias or whatever it is, but I don't know if it's a duo or it's a single person, but there's an artist that releases under the name Totally Reckless, and basically they do a lot of bounce remixes. I think they go to Kenny Hayes in the rebound. I think, but I think they're learning and they're putting ideas forward. And I don't get into all that like, oh, you're not a real person if you go there, or but all this like, if you go there, you go there. That's up to you. You know, I just like music, but anyway, they bring out a lot of remixes, and there's a lot of remixes of like classic 90s piano tunes. So one of them that I really like, they did a remix called Sweet Class, and it takes the piano from K Class Sweet. Let me show you. And they do quite good with that. They've done a real nice little bootleg of it, and then they also did another track which is a remix of the Afrika Bombata. Got to Get Up and Dance, which is also the bass heads. Is there anybody out there? And they did like a really really cool version of that. And they do some really really good stuff. They've done a remix of That's Just the Way It Is as well, which is another really good piano tune. And they've done some, they always bring out these real good piano tracks from back in the day that kind of take you right back. And they're really good at, like I say, I don't know who's behind Totally Reckless. I don't know if it's a single person or if it's a duo. I think I did add the guy on Facebook. I think I found him on Facebook, but I don't remember who it is. I don't remember who the person is behind the duo, so or behind the name, should I say? So that's something I'll probably look into at some point. But that is, again, really, 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 really good. Another person for me that has been doing really well production wise is Robbie J as well. He's been doing some good stuff actually. I don't rate everything he does, and sometimes I don't. I think sometimes his tracks are really loud, like the levels on them are really loud. And like I got one the other day, which was a remix of Better Off Alone, but it was like Better Off an Angel. It was like a mash-up bootleg, and I just felt like it sounded a little bit too loud, like just the whole like level of the track. Like when you're mixing it in, it comes in really loud over other tracks, and I just kind of feel like it sounds just a little bit messy, just ever so slightly. Like it just sounds a little bit like it's just not fully there. But he's still doing really well, and I've got to give perks to him. And the guy makes a lot of tunes. He's always putting little clips up of something he's working on, little WIPs, little whips, little tracks he's working on. and he's started to have releases on Bounce Heaven, so he's going a step in the right direction, definitely. Got nothing but respect for the guy. We get on quite well and we talk quite often as well, and we do a lot of we've worked on a track together. It's still currently unfinished actually. We tackled an old classic piano tune and it still needs a bit of work doing to it, so we're going to have to get that one fixed up definitely. But yeah, essentially that is another guy out there. So there's loads of people that have really been doing it for me this year, but I think the guy who's kind of holding the torch and kind of really pushing the way through for me is I think Axel Gear is just the guy who's like really doing it for me. I will mention that Andy Whitby has really jumped back on production lately. Sort of the past couple of years, he's done a lot of like edits and mashups and smash ups, and he hasn't really done too much on the way of tracks. But he's just opened up a new label called Bounce Generation, and he's releasing music like every 3 weeks, I think, and he's bringing out some originals and some covers, and he's doing some really cool stuff. So really good to know, and I've got a couple of his tracks, and they do sound really good. And they sound really banging as well. They have a really, really powerful like punch to them, which is really good. Like when you mix them in, they sound really good, which is what you want. You don't want something really sounding flat. So he's done some really, really good stuff. Like Ozone Crazy. He's just done released a cover of Believe in, Share Believe, which sounds really good. And then he's just uploaded another track called Free Tonight, which I've just got, which again is another really, really belting track. So, he's doing good in himself as well. Is Mr. Andy Whitby, and then of course you've got the usual, like Scott F is still grinding through, and then you've got people like Shanks, and they put out bangers all the time. Like you can't really, for me they're just at that level now where they're always putting tracks out. Sometimes they put a good track out, sometimes they put a track out, and again it's not the production. Sometimes it's just the type of remix that they go for. But they put stuff out all the time. They do a lot of they jump on a lot of new tracks when new tracks come out, and they do some really, really cool stuff, which is really, really good. And then of course you've got people like like Kenty, and you've got like Heads Up and stuff, which I believe they went separate ways, but and took a little bit of a break. But you've got people, there's certain people where they're at that level now where you just know that they're going to bring good tracks out, and I think Axel Gear is really coming to that level as well. But Axel Gear just always smashes it, like always just really brings out something unique and different, and real energetic, happy and ravey. It just, the tracks just sound so unique compared to other like bounce tracks. Like the bass sounds just sound completely different, but still donkey, which is really weird. But they've just got a really, really unique sound to them. So there we have it. So they're really like the bounce tracks that are doing it for me this year. Obviously we've still got just a couple of months left really of this year. So of course some more tracks are going to come out and stuff like that. I suppose for me, let's talk a little bit about tracks that I've done this year. In terms of bounce, like I brought out some bounce tracks this year. I haven't done as many that I wanted to do, but the ones I have put out, I do believe have been really good. In that sense, I've had two that have come out onto Excite, and then there was some that went onto Grooving Sounds, that were really good for me personally. And also I've done some stuff that's not yet been released that that is really good in that sense. But we'll kind of we'll touch upon the ones that I've released, you know, because I think they're kind of in sense they're kind of important to me, like because they got released and they're out there for people to obviously play and buy in sets. And I think, in all honesty, so this year we released Love Story, but I kind of made that one last year, and then I kind of sat on it for a while. I also released a remix of Ultra Beat I Wanna Touch You, but I also made that last year, and then I found it again, and then I thought, you know what, I want to release this. So I kind of did that. I also released my remix of Kiss Me Through the Phone. And again, I'd done that one a couple of years ago. So I ain't really too gonna count them. Like, they were good tracks, like I like them. Don't get me wrong. They were like really good tracks in that sense. For me, I think my riding solo. I don't know. There was just something I really liked the vibe of that track, but then I also do like my Feel This Moment as well. Both arguably good tracks, really good tracks. And then I've also it's about to come out for free download. I've just done a remix of the Bob Sinclair World Hold On, and I really like that one as well. I got like a really good sound on that one. And then there's like some others in the pipeline that I do think like they smash, like Riding Solo to Smithereens, and Feel This Moment, hasn't got a patch on it, unfortunately. So, there's some stuff to come out, and I'm working on some really exciting music, which I'm more excited for. But I've released some stuff that I'm proud of, and I'm glad they're there and that people play them in sets and they're there for people to buy. That's kind of like a good thing for me. I'm going to try and maybe squeeze a couple more, maybe another track this year to go on to Excite, if I can. We're getting close to November, so we might not be able to, the next release date might even be like a January kind of thing, but we'll have to see. But it might be a nice, cool way to start the year to have something to come out in the January. So we'll see. I've done a remix of the Key to Secret, but it's a lot different to what you would expect. I found like a resung vocal from another version of that track. Done by the real bass booty babies. They did a version, the Key to Secret, and it's so different to what you hear on the what you hear like in the original 90s from the Urban Cookie Collective. So I'm thinking that I might submit that as a track because it's kind of got the resung vocal there. Excite like resung vocals, as opposed to just straight up using the original acapellas. Or so I got told anyway. So that's why like my Riding Solo and Feel This Moment have like resung vocals, and then I've worked on a couple of other bits as well. So we'll see we'll kind of see what we're kind of dealing with, and we'll see if they'll maybe take another track. So I'm going to try and maybe get something submitted tomorrow, maybe, just to see if there is like a date for it to come out in December or something, or if it'll be like a January release if they obviously choose to obviously accept the tune. So yeah, so there we go. So I think Riding Solo is the one for me that I've released and that I'm the most proud of. But there's some stuff to come out, and stuff that I'm working on currently. Some duo tracks with the Layman and stuff that are just gonna absolutely just all over, like the Riding Solos and stuff. Unfortunately, and that doesn't mean that I don't like the Riding Solos. It's just like, as a producer, you move up, you improve, you level up, you get better at production, you make better tracks, and you find a newer sound that you like and stuff like that. So yeah. So anyway, that is going to do it. Make sure to like, comment, share, and we'll see you soon.